Hey, what type of leader are you? Are you a leader who's gotten really good at putting out fires? So much so, maybe you have a fireman's hat and a fire extinguisher in your office. Do you seem to always have things that keep popping up unexpectedly that derail your projects, derail your deadlines? You see, as I meet with leaders of all kinds, those are in my organization or people I just meet with out in the business community, I see a lot of leaders who always seem to have a story on why things went over budget or they didn't hit their deadline, always trying to sell their hard work more than they are the results. Listen, if you feel like you're always putting out fires, that you can never seem to have the time, stick around for this rest of this episode as we talk about how to stop putting out fires in your leadership. Welcome back to Increase. I'm Blake Anderson. Welcome to episode 45. Glad to be here with you. Talking about organizational leadership, how to increase your business. Like, subscribe, comment wherever you're listening, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Glad you're here with us. Today we're talking about how to stop putting out fires as a leader. You know, I've worked under many different types of leaders. I have different leaders that work underneath me. And I'm going to tell you what, there's probably one thing, if I could say what the difference is between the successful leaders and the mediocre leaders. There's one particular trait that probably sums it all up. And, you know, it's probably more ingrained in personality than it is taught. But I would tell you, if this doesn't come natural to you, but you long to be successful as a leader, you want to be someone that can be trusted with big projects, with big initiatives, this is something you're going to have to resolve to cultivate in your leadership style and in your personality. And I'm talking about proactivity. You know, Stephen R. Covey, in his famous book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, says that habit number one of highly effective people is that they are proactive. You know, the leaders who don't seem to be as successful always seem to have fires popping up that they're putting out. These issues come up that seem to derail their plans. They've almost given up on planning altogether because they know that the end result ends up being so widely different than what they planned to start with. And they end up being very reactive for one reason or another. And oftentimes, these are well-meaning people who you love, who you care about, who you are happy to hire, who you can't stomach the thought of firing. But the results always seem to struggle. Deadlines never seem to be met. They seem to be over budget. And you may even trust them because you know they wouldn't lie to you. You know they're trying hard. You know they're putting in their hours. But why can't their projects seem to be successful? And then there's the people that, man, they seem to hit it every time. You know, they plan their work. They work their plan. The projects come in on time. They come in under budget. And you just know if you're going to be confident, you give it to them. And I really think it boils down to this habit number one, as Covey says, of being proactive. You know, there's a few things that come from let's just describe proactivity, and then we'll kind of talk through, hopefully by the end, what are some things that you can start doing to cultivate proactivity into your leadership style so you can be a leader who no longer puts out fires, but a leader who's always ahead of the fires. The flames never touch them. They deliver their projects on time, under budget. They're known in the office as the person who can get it done, right? So from Covey's book, you learn that reactive people focus on what they can't control. Proactive people focus on what they can control. You see, leadership is a very vulnerable task. You know, if you've read much of Maxwell or you've been listening to this podcast for very long, you know that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And as I've stated a couple times that, you know, as you go up in the chain of command, as you grow in your authority and leadership, one thing that also grows is your vulnerability. You see, the more that you're responsible for, the more people that you are responsible for, the more vulnerable you become to their efforts and things that are outside of your control. And it's really easy as a leader to try to do the math on all the things that will be the pieces of your project, but so few of those can you really control. But if you focus your time and attention on the things that you can't control, you end up being a reactive person who's just waiting for things to happen to them. Versus a proactive person says, I can't control those things, so I'm not going to give them my effort. What I am going to do is I'm going to be proactive to take care of the things that are my responsibility to do, the things that I can do, right? I'm not going to just wait till the person before me finishes their job before I start mine. No, I'm going to be ahead of them, waiting for when the project comes to me and it's ready for me to add my piece to it. Covey says that proactivity is the capacity and the desire to subordinate impulses, moods, feelings, conditions to values based on principle. You see, proactive leaders are principled leaders. They have a set of principles that they are acting upon. They've got a clear intention of what they're trying to accomplish, and that comes first. And their emotions, their circumstances, they must submit to their desire and to the principles in which they're going to accomplish their task. They don't let there be an excuse. Instead, they know they're going to be intentional about what they want, and they have values and they have principles for which they're going to do their work. Proactive people take responsibility. The best leaders on your team, the best leaders in your office are the ones that don't have excuses. They're the ones that take responsibility. They're the ones that know that everything that happens up until the project gets to them is still their responsibility, and they're there to help in any way they can. They don't have an excuse. Well, someone was late. Well, this person was busy. Well, they are working on another project. Well, the weather. They don't say that. They don't allow that to be an excuse. To them, they're only focused on delivering a successful project. Success is their responsibility, and so they take responsibility for every part of it. The other thing about a proactive person is they take initiative. You can act or you can be acted upon. And a proactive leader does not allow circumstance to act upon them. A proactive leader acts upon circumstance. Things don't happen to them. Things happen for them. And they happen to things. Proactive people also learn to forgive and forget. They're not bogged down by what's happened to them. Instead, they are looking to the success that they're trying to create. I'll tell a story. I've spent most of my career in the building industry. And when I was really young, my uncle taught me a very simple lesson that proved to be a really powerful principle when it comes to leadership. And we weren't even talking about leadership at the time. You see, my Uncle Joe had been a builder all of his life, and I was going to be new on a framing crew. I was in my early 20s. I didn't know anything about building, but I knew I wanted to learn. And I wanted to ask him, how can I be successful with this? How can I get a raise? How can they want me to be in the company, and how can I help the team? And he said, here's the thing. Here's what you've got to understand. The helper is maybe one of the most important people on the job site. Everybody's looking at the lead man, the cut guy, the person who's reading the plans. But I'm going to tell you what, the best helpers maybe make the biggest difference. So here's your job. You're not going to be given much responsibility of anything when you first start out. Your job is going to be to get whatever someone else needs. But you need to pay attention to what's going on. You need to take initiative. You need to be one step ahead of the carpenter that you're helping. When he needs a sheet of plywood, he shouldn't have to ask you for it. When he turns around, it should be in his hands. If he needs nails, you should be standing there waiting to hand it to him. When he needs a saw, he shouldn't have to ask you. You should see what he needs and have it ready for him. The best helpers maybe aren't doing the cutting. They maybe aren't doing the measuring. But the best helpers have everything that the leader needs when the leader needs it. See, what was he teaching me? He was teaching me how to be proactive. He was really teaching me, little did he know, that leaders can lead up, You can be at the bottom of the chain of the command, and you can still lead up by being proactive, by looking for what's coming next, by taking responsibility, even from your lowly place, and by taking initiative. He taught me from minute one, before I stepped foot on a job site, that to be successful in that industry, I had to be proactive. And that has helped me be successful my entire career, all from that first lesson that he gave, how to be a simple helper. But he was teaching me how to be a great leader. His author, I really like Jocko Willink, Leif Babin. They wrote a couple leadership books called Extreme Ownership, and this one called The Dichotomy of Leadership. And they really talk about proactivity, and they use slightly different terms that I really like. It fires me up as a man and as a leader. And they say default aggressive. These folks were Navy SEALs, and they write these great leadership books about their time in combat, but now they also advise business leaders. And so each book has a great combat story based on a principle and also shows a business application. And one of their key principles in their methodology is to be a strong leader, you must take extreme ownership of the things that you're responsible for, but you must have a default setting as aggressive, meaning proactive. So they write in their book, an aggressive mindset should be the default setting of any leader. Default aggressive. This means that the best leaders, the best teams, don't wait to act. Instead, understanding the strategic vision, they aggressively execute to overcome obstacles, capitalize on immediate opportunities, and accomplish the mission and win it. Default aggressive. They're not waiting for things to happen to them. They're looking to see how they can happen to things. They go on to say, rather than passively waiting to be told what to do, default aggressive leaders proactively seek out ways to further the strategic mission. They understand the commander's intent, and where they have the authority to do so, they execute. That sound familiar? Sounds quite a bit like what my Uncle Joe taught me on how to be a great helper on a job site. That I would take initiative, that I would look for opportunities to accomplish the mission and further the vision, that I would proactively seek out ways to further the mission. Default aggressive. And that's really what makes the most effective and successful leaders. They are default aggressive. Now they go on in this book to talk through the dichotomy of that, understanding that maturity knows when to be aggressive, but how not to be reckless, and when to be discerning about the situation. But in general, you start from this posture of being aggressive. So we're talking about putting out fires. And the first step of putting out fires is to have this attitude of proactivity, this attitude of being aggressive. The second thing that I think really helps us to have a leadership style where we're not putting out fires. Instead, we are having success and we are imprinting our will upon the project, comes in habit number 2 from Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And habit number 2 is begin with the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind. Covey says that you need to start with a clear understanding of your destination. You can listen to episode 44 to hear more about the importance of starting with the why. But see, the most successful leaders and the most successful projects have a clearly defined goal and objective. And a proactive, default aggressive leader is pursuing that with everything they have. They submit all of their emotions, their feelings, their concerns to this goal that they have. They begin with the end in mind. They don't start out just doing some things hoping that they get there. No, they know where they're going, and they will get there. That's what makes the difference. I've got leaders on my team that just kind of go along and do things as they come up. And guess what? Their projects just keep struggling along. In the end, they finally get to success. They have a finished product that looks really good. But there's no real urgency to get there. But I have other leaders who they know what they want. They begin with the end in mind, and they aggressively pursue the success that they are looking for. Covey says that without a clear destination, success is empty. And without a clear destination, you're going to have failure. You heard this old saying, if you plan to fail, you fail to plan. So reactive leaders have almost by default stopped planning. They've come to this conclusion that why bother planning? The plans never play out anyways. There's always things that come up. It's a waste of time. I can plan these things and then they don't happen, so I'm going to even stop planning. But see, the proactive leaders understand the importance of the plan. The proactive leaders plan their work and they work their plan. Let me say that again. This is so simple and you've heard it so many times. But this really does make the biggest difference in your success as a leader. Do you plan your work? And then do you work your plan? So I've tried to coach and encourage my leaders who are more reactive, and they're willing to plan their work. But the breakdown I see is oftentimes they fail to work their plan. Whereas the proactive leaders begin with the end in mind. They plan their work and they do everything according to that plan. And they will hold the line with everything that they have. I have a construction manager who came on with me, and when we first had the interview, we were talking about the importance of using production schedules to run effective projects. And he said, that's how I like to do it. I really like to set the schedule and I work towards it. What was he saying? He says, I plan my work and I work my plan. Now, of course, we hired him because in the interview, he was saying all the right things. In the back of my mind, I wondered, that's really easy to say. But I've been a project manager long enough to know that that's really hard to fulfill on. I'm going to tell you what. This guy is a pro. He understands the importance of proactivity, and he literally does plan his work, and he works his plan. We set aggressive production schedules in our business. Most of the time, we believe our schedules are too aggressive, but we're trying to create urgency, knowing that if we set a 4-month schedule and we get done in 5, that's a success. This guy sets a 4-month schedule and finishes in 4 months because he's always proactively seeing how can I stay ahead. He's taking responsibility for every step. He's taking an initiative to get everything lined up so that it can happen according to his plan. So it takes a commitment. And for you to start doing something new, this is going to be very hard. But I'm serious. If you want to be a successful leader who's given the important projects, who gets the promotion, you're going to have to develop this skill. You're going to have to decide that you're going to be proactive, that you're going to stop putting out fires, that you're going to be ahead of fires ever happening, that you're going to plan your work and you're going to work your plan. So with my team, we use what I call a schedule matrix. And this is a tool that I want to give you. It's a very simple tool, but oftentimes it's the simplest tool that have the most power and profound impact on your business. Start with your week, Monday through Friday, across the top. Down the side, list every project that you're responsible for and map out the week on the things that have to happen every day for your project to stay on task to hit your deadline. So you're mapping out every project by every day. Now, maybe not every day needs something to happen, but you want to map it out in advance. Ideally, what needs to happen on each day so I stay ahead and the project continues to go. And then that becomes your plan. You've planned your work, and now you work that plan throughout the week. Every day, you look back at that, and you know, for this to happen this day, then I have to do this. And ideally, you're taking initiative, and you're ahead of your plan. You know that if something's got to get done on Friday that involves other people, I better make some phone calls or send some emails out on Monday so that they're ready for the meeting, so that they have their deliverables ready. See, most of the time as a leader, you're counting on someone else to do their job. But if you just trust that they'll get it to you when they want to get it to you, don't expect to be able to finish your project on time. See, a proactive leader takes responsibility for the result. A proactive leader, if they're waiting on someone to send them some information or a completed task, they're not going to wait till the day that it's due to see if it's ready. They're going to be proactively checking in. How's the progress coming? Can I still expect your deliverable on Friday? Are you still going to be at the meeting on Thursday? Hey, I'm lining up people next week who will need the information that you're producing this week. Can I still expect it on Wednesday? See, you wouldn't know that unless you plan your work. But then to work the plan is to be proactive and take initiative to be ahead of everything you need to do. See, proactivity takes urgency, responsibility, and initiative. It's not complicated. It's not complex. But it is a fight. And it will take probably everything you have. But like any new habit, the more you do it, the easier it gets. The more ahead you start to get on your projects, the easier it is for them to stay ahead. Have you ever noticed you start a project and you get behind right out the gate? It's almost impossible to get it back on track. I was asked to consult on a construction project years ago, and I came in midstream when they had a mess and they were months behind. And it was a multi-million dollar project, and I was only consulting on a small portion of it. But it was the portion that had become a mess at the end. And what I had found out was they got out of sequence right in the beginning. And they got behind because they were out of sequence right in the beginning. And they could never recover, no matter how hard they tried. See, reactive leaders are putting out fires. Proactive leaders plan their work. They work their plan. They start with the end in mind. And they proactively, intentionally have successful projects every single time. You can be a great leader. Even if you're not proactive by nature, you can develop this. Don't make it too hard on yourself. Plan your work. Work your plan. Now, last thing I'm going to say, because I know if you're a reactive leader, you're thinking, well, what about all the stuff that pops up? You don't know my industry. I'm in construction and things happen all the time. You're right. They do in every industry, especially if you're in my industry of construction, real estate development. We have the weather. We have subcontractors working on many different sites and not sites that I can control. And we're relying on people to be there when they say, but there's things, very long list of things out of our control. I will say this. Don't plan things so tight that they become unreasonable. Be aggressive. Be proactive. Set schedules that have that require you to work with urgency. But if you know there's always things that pop up, schedule in the buffer you need so that you don't get behind right out the gate. Be realistic about what's possible, but plan the work and then work the plan. Don't make excuses for what other people are doing and how they've missed your deadline. Take responsibility for your role as a leader and maybe where you didn't prepare them with what they needed, or you didn't follow up, or you didn't schedule ahead of time, and learn from it. If someone is habitually late to the site and doesn't meet your deadlines, then maybe you got to start scheduling them for weeks in advance, or maybe you need to find someone else to do that part of the project. But take responsibility, take initiative, be proactive, and watch the fires in your life, watch the fires in your leadership begin to disappear, and watch you start having more success with less stress. I hope you join me next time for another Increase Your Business with Blake Anderson. Wherever you are, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Subscribe, comment, like, and I'll see you next time.